yourself fallen apart, people see courage. They see, and their hearts are moved, and compassion and care flows out of them. And they don't realize they have a story to tell. They just think, I'm a good person. But then they remember, Lord, sometimes it's hard to journey with my friend. Sometimes it's hard to stand beside your spouse. Sometimes it's hard going the distance with your kids. And the Spirit gives you the strength, the courage. You've got stories to tell. You've got stories to tell. I came to this really great realization a week and a half ago. And I got to preach about it at Hanley last week because it was just so fresh. It's still fresh. I have told you, I've shared with you about my journey of being a person who was not a believer in Jesus. I've told you about that, about how at 35, through my 10-year-old son, through the power and compassion of church camp workers who journeyed alongside my son. The story's just the same at so many VBSs as well. But my son wanted to go to church, but I didn't. And over that time of coming, anyway, last week, it finally came to me, you know, I have a great deal of shame about the fact that I was an unbeliever. And for as much as I understand forgiveness, last week, I was sitting in the Hanley Cafe, and you know when you go into small towns and you're getting to know people in the community, there was a few people and there was somebody sitting by themselves, so I sat with him. I was aware of who he was, but I didn't know him. So we're having this great conversation, because you know, you don't sit in a booth by yourself. You just don't. And we're talking, we're having a great conversation, because he'd heard that I'd come back to Hanley. And he said, why did you become a pastor? And I thought, okay, I get to share my story again. And it was amazing to be able to talk about being this person who was not a believer, was a denier of who Christ was. And it was in that moment of talking to him, because I was aware of who he was, some of his background, I went, I can finally let it go. I know I'm a forgiven child of God, but I've had a few people say to me, when I tell them my story, they go, and you're a pastor? It pushes my button. I've got that button. That's a button for me, right? And sometimes that's a really sore button. And I have it happen to me just every so often. And they're not saying it in a specifically critical way, right? But it's sort of like, really? You're a pastor? Oh. And now my button's pushed again. And I told this man my story, and my button wasn't pushed. That little twinge of shame that always rises up to the surface in me. Oh, if my story could only have been different. I wish my story was different. For those of you who have known Christ since you were a child, that it's just been a natural part of your life, you are so blessed. You have a story to tell. Because your story is really uncommon now. You have stories to tell. And it was in that moment that I thought, it came to me that it was so easy telling this man for whom it was going to be really hard telling my story to, as I sat in the Hanley Cafe, my button wasn't pushed anymore. And I thought, after this many years, right? Jesus forgives us right away. That grace is given to us right away, but sometimes it takes a little while before you know it, before you trust it. And I just thought, wow, now I know. It's just a part of my story, and it isn't my button anymore. That I'm not good enough. That I'm not worthy enough. That I'm not this enough or that enough. I'm just Kristen. I'm just Kristen. And God is particularly using me in this way. But He uses all of us in different ways, all the time. Sometimes it's a big story. Most of the time it's just little stories. But they add up. My friend reminded me of this great quote from St. Francis, probably 1400 years ago or something like that. When you're preaching, sometimes you use words. We are all preaching all the time. We are the witness. We are the church who testifies to the work of Jesus in healing and redeeming us. And how are we able to do that? Through the power of the Holy Spirit. Through the power of the Holy Spirit. Why do you come to church? Really? Why? Why do you come to church? I want you just to take a moment to think about, why do you come to worship? And now I want you to turn to whoever you're sitting close to and tell them why you come. So you just told stories. You just told stories. And some of you might have heard a simple story. Some of you might have gone, oh, I never thought of it that way. Right? I was talking to a friend, and she said, why do you come to church? I said, you mean before I was paid to have to come? And because it always seems kind of self-serving to ask that question now. But it was always about the people, right? It was about the people who I came to see. When I was at Christ Lutheran and kind of partway, kind of like 6 or 7 years into my journey, I was finding living out of the hymnal to be a bit of a stagnant experience for me. Because I hadn't grown up in the church, doing the same thing every week was really quite difficult for me. And I had a number of charismatic friends and attended a number of their worship services on other occasions and really enjoyed the praise and worship format. And I went and talked to my pastor and I said, you know, I love it here. I'm thinking of leaving though, because I just can't. I'm so on fire for the Lord. I love Jesus. This has been such a transformation in my life, and I just want to express it. I want to be able to lift my hands up, but I can't. And you know, 'cause I don't want to distract anybody from their worship, right? And he said, "Oh, Kristen, we would hate to lose you. We would hate to lose you here at Christ Lutheran because you've done so many things, you've been so involved and all those kind of things, but he said, I want you to go where it is that your spirit will be fed." And I went, oh, I was expecting him to say, no, you can't. You shouldn't. I don't know what I was expecting. But you know why I didn't leave? It was because I love the people, right? I love the people. Coming every week and seeing people